Welcome back, everyone, to another iteration of Let's Take 5, the podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema and we discuss their excellence and range. My name's Ray Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
And today we are going to be talking about A Clockwork Orange. Now, before we get into this is part of the Stanley Kubrick 5 that we are doing. Previous films were The Killing, A Path to Glory, Dr. Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and now we are going to wrap it up on Austin's favorite film, A Clockwork Orange. We're joined this week by a very, very special guest. It's a friend of both Austin and I, and our resident, at least in the friend group, is concerned, Stanley Kubrick historian, Beau Thompson. Beau, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Hey, Beau.
And so the reason we brought Beau on for this is, and a big reason why we did, is because with every guest that we've had on the podcast thus far, and it just happened to work out this way, Beau, and I don't know if you know this, every guest that we have had on, it's always been my least favorite film. Exactly. So it's like, how rude of the 5 we cover. So how rude is it for me to invite someone on our podcast and then tell them I think the movie's bad? So what's really funny about this, and ironic, is the tables seem to have turned a bit because, Austin, would you say that this is your least favorite film we've covered on the podcast so far?
Oh, easily.
Easily.
Yeah, easily.
And welcome guest Beau to the podcast.
Yeah. and y'all covered Heat, right?
We did cover Heat.
Wow.
That was the first time this thing started.
So, yes, Let's Take 5, the official position of Austin is that he likes Heat more than A Clockwork Orange, but he's going to tell us why today. So, no, A Clockwork Orange is a film about a kid named Alex who lives in a dystopian future where basically the young youth of London has basically spiraled out of control and does a lot of drugs, and drugs are easily purchased, and they go and they do a lot of crime, and basically society has been ruined by this. Throughout this time, he ends up finally getting put in a prison where he is selected for a rehabilitation type program where they have him view violent cinema and sex and in an attempt to rehabilitate him. So he gets to a point where every time he sees this, he reacts very violently. He gets sick, so he won't do violence. He sees sex, he gets sick, he won't do violence or rape, which is part of what he does. And then the end of the film has him basically retreading the old places that he went when he was a bad guy. And then we'll talk about the ending when we sort of get to it. Is that about the gist of it?
I think so.
That's about right.
This sounds so good. Okay, so Clockwork Orange is a film that I came to very early when I was trying to get into film and cinema. And I've talked about this before. I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, thought it was incredible. Actually called Beau the first night I watched it. And something about the way Kubrick, his style was really sticking with me. I wanted to see something more like that. I remember I got A Clockwork Orange and I watched it for the first time, and I could not believe the way women were treated in the film. I couldn't believe that. I'd never seen anything like that before. And there's 2 rape scenes very, very early. One, she doesn't actually get raped, and then another one where she does. And that was the thing that stuck with me the most the first time I watched it. And then I don't even think I finished it the first time, and then I ended up lying and telling people I liked the film. Then a year later, I watched it and finished the film, and I thought it was brilliant, and have thought it was brilliant ever since then. So I don't know what it was. I mean, taste evolved, taste changed. Yeah, I watched it in a mutual friend, Beau and I's mutual friend Kyle Krupski's basement. That's where I saw it for the first time, and I was constantly afraid his mom was going to come downstairs.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Imagine, his mom. Imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of age, so that's how I sort of came to the film and have loved it ever since. Beau, how did you? What brought you to the film?
I was around 8th or 9th grade, I'd say, and
perfect age to watch it. Perfect age to watch it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, I agree. I recommend everyone's children watch it around that too, or sooner. Yeah, it was something with my uncles. My uncles are like 13 years older than me, and they're twins, and so they're kind of like my older brothers in a way, and kind of directly or indirectly, I guess, molded my tastes in a way. Yeah, because they were into horror movies, so I got into horror movies, and they always had A Clockwork Orange. And my uncle Derek had it on VHS, and this was around the age where I was starting to watch rated R movies and the like. And I honestly don't know if he just gave it to me and said, "Hey, you can watch it," or I just took it. I can't remember. I just yeah, I remember putting it on, and yeah, I was just blown away by it. See, this is the movie for me. This is really the first Kubrick movie I've seen. I mean, I know, I knew it, never watched it. I just saw it on maybe on some clips on TV now and again, but when I was younger, but never paid it no mind. And this is kind of the first movie, like, I was into movies and stuff, I guess, but I never really, I guess, gave too much credit to I guess you could say, the artistic merit of a film.
Right.
And then I watched this, and it just kind of blew my mind in terms of, not necessarily the content, but how that content was presented to us.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most striking thing about the film to me. Even if you don't like the movie, you don't like the story of the movie, you don't like the plot of the movie or whatever, what have you, you can't argue that there isn't something visually interesting happening in just about every single frame. Now, whether that is offensive to look at is maybe one thing, but you can't. I mean, the opening shot of the film is one of the most iconic. It's got to be one of the most iconic scenes in film history. I mean,
oh, yeah.
anyone dispute that? I think that's pretty clear. Austin's got a shot again. Let's just open the floodgates. Austin, talk about A Clockwork Orange. What do you think? You liked it more this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with, I think, maybe my most controversial opinion. Because we're talking about the visual style of the movie. I feel this is a step down on almost genre confidence for Stanley Kubrick, because I think all of the science fiction elements hurt the film. I think the look of the world, the language, I know it's all from the book, same criticism towards the book, really. I think it would be more effective if it was set in modern day England. And aside from, I really enjoy the outfits that Alex's kind of team wear.
Droogs, come on, call them droogs. Call them what they are.
I don't know. I did not write down these words. I enjoy those because it's more of like a mashing of different styles and kind of the things they prefer from different parts of history. But you walk into a house and it's like the weirdest fucking design, or it brings me out of the film every time.
I wonder if that's a time and place thing, because this movie came out in, I believe, 71, something like that. So 71, this movie comes out. No one had ever seen anything like this before.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just the facts. I mean, and going into that film and seeing it for the first time, seeing the Durango 9 to 5, seeing the Korova Milk Bar, seeing the homes, it was, I think, like he had just done a few years prior with 2001, I think really Stanley Kubrick giving something, at the very least, whether you found it interesting, whether you found it helpful, or you thought it inferred the narrative at all, giving some people something they'd never seen before. I mean, there's no movie like this. There's been no movie like it since, but it's been attempted, and it's not been done.
It's very true. It's like 2001 is so like the world makes sense to me. Obviously, it's not like an extremely different world. It's our world kind of with better technology. But I always felt like everything in 2001 like fits. It is a complete world. These are the shoes they would wear on the craft so they can work on. It always made sense. Whereas. Perhaps that's what he's trying to say about Sardi, is that nothing makes sense in this world. It's like
I feel like dystopian. That's a common theme in dystopian films. Beau, did you have anything to add to that?
Oh, yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned that, actually, Austin. Well, because when the first times that I would watch this movie, I I never realized that it was actually kind of meant to be set in the future myself. I honestly was just like, oh, that's just how Britain in the 70s was.
Oh boy.
Maybe not exactly, you know what I mean? But it's like,
yeah, that's the lowest opinion of England.
I was like looking at that, I was watching, I was like, yeah, I could understand a culture like this. You know.
Well, he drives the Durango 95. So, 1995 would put it in the future.
Oh, okay. See, I just know nothing about cars, so I just...
You don't own a Durango 95? No, it's that's I do find that interesting also that you said that, because I feel like if that is a criticism that you have for this film, I feel like you could make that criticism about just about every dystopian film ever.
Which is not my favorite genre.
Yeah.
But there are dystopians that I do think are successful just because I buy it more. Like we talk about it a lot, so The Last of Us.
But that's post-apocalyptic.
It's post-apocalyptic.
That's different.
Yeah. I guess I'm just going to do Doctor Who episodes now. But but I don't know. Like, to me, like that kind of thing was... Because I've enjoyed rewatching these Kubrick films, and I kind of went in saying I don't like Kubrick, and though I now think 3 of the 5 we watched are really, really, really great. I don't have the love for him still, but this was a different response than those last 3 films, because those last 3 films, I felt that Kubrick always knew exactly why the camera was there, why the camera's working there. And I never felt that confidence with this film, because I actually felt like the first third, he kept slipping between showing the world as Alex sees it and showing the world as a third party, being judgmental of Alex. And sometimes during
let me interject. So I'm going to kick this to you, Beau, right after this. So for this part, so. There's a 3-act structure to this movie that's based on the 3-act structure of the book by Anthony Burgess. One of the examples where I think a movie is better than the book. I have read the book. It's good, but I prefer.
I barely remember it. I read it as a kid.
So the first act of the movie is Alex wreaking havoc. He's a force to be reckoned with. The first act of this movie is a horror film in a lot of regards. The images are terrifying. Even when they're mundane images, which he will again try to use later with The Shining, but here specifically, like why is this crucified Jesus dancing right now really frightening? Then you go to the prison section of the film, which is essentially the prison. That's the rehabilitation, and then you have the third part of the film where he comes back, and then he's basically reaping what he sowed now that he's out of prison, and then a not so ambiguous ending that eventually he reverts to being back to who he was at the beginning. So that's the basic 3-act structure. I saw this film this way. I feel like the first part of this movie is fun as hell. It's horror. He's doing awful things, but I enjoy watching Alex do these things. And that I don't think comments on me, because the film presents it as fun. The film presents it as fun. Even the rape scenes, he's singing in the rain, then there's a fight and there's a scuffle. It's shot in a way where we're following someone who's antagonistic. We're following this guy create this havoc, and then we're driving down the road, the Durango 95, it's all filmed in such a way that they're always so jubilant that you're almost having it with them. And then comes this third act of the film, or the second act with the prison sequences, where you now, as Kubrick, now you see why the first part was so fun. Because now it's judging you for it. And that's what I kind of got out of the film. As Alex had participated in this so gleefully, then he is punished for it. And I kind of got that was kind of happening in the film, too. Because the rest of the film is never like that again. It never gets like that again.
Yeah, and also the first part, you're pretty much in Alex's world. You're never in, the system, quote
right.
unquote. You're always around, his elements pretty much. like even the apartment, he's pretty much the ruler of it.
Right.
If you want to say, the parents, they'll him get away with, well, almost literally murder. You know what I mean?
I'm going back to bed, mother.
Yeah.
No school today, I'm afraid.
Like, speaking of trying to make it fun, it's a great point because there's always, music. There's always like fun, fanciful music that he enjoys, classical music. Like almost, maybe not constantly, but through much of the first act specifically as well.
Yeah.
What's also interesting about him is that he is an intelligent person, which is another reason why I kind of enjoy it. Like, it's kind of fun watching him, just kind of like it's fun to watch the Joker, The Dark Knight or something. It's an interesting character, you know what I mean? He's morally, repugnant, but it's such a fascinating look into this world. I guess it's,
yeah.
And, talk about the rape when we actually don't actually see the actual rape itself. That'd be a whole other thing entirely.
Of course. It never got.
Gang.
As an ambulance goes by outside, welcome to Chicago. I never thought it bordered. I never thought it got expletive.
Yeah.
I never thought.
And I thought it did.
And you thought it did. Yeah. So explain that to me.
It felt like.
Should we wait until the siren cuts?
No, it's background music.
Okay.
And to me, that's where I felt like this was Kubrick's sloppiest film, just from how I experienced it. Like the most famous scene, the Singing in the Rain, home invasion rape scene. There are parts of it when I thought it was really effective, where Kubrick was, this time he was taking a step back and showing you from almost afar Alex's joy. It is him singing kind of in the room. It's not like a produced audio version of him singing. It's of the moment. It always feels real. But then it becomes like really fun from his point of view. But then it keeps showing like them like being terrifying away from Alex's enjoyment, because he likes them certain terrified, but not this kind of terrified. And it just always felt like a bad mixture to the point where the only person who's really enjoying the scene from this exact way is Kubrick, the way he's enjoying to film this scene.
Yeah, that's
like people.
That's just a bridge too far for me, because I feel like in most horror movies, the killer is enjoying themselves.
No, I'm saying they should. I should probably mention that Malcolm McDowell, I think, is incredible in this movie.
Yeah,
I love Malcolm McDowell a lot, and I think it's just the first third. I think Kubrick really had difficulty knowing how to capture the charm, because my favorite part of Alex, one time I found it fun to watch Alex, is when he has to talk to adults in a way, like in a sophisticated form, where you can just tell he is just him being such a sociopath of like, I know exactly how to be the proper British boy who knows exactly what to say to the prison guards and to the judges. And to me, that's when I had fun watching him.
He's highly intelligent.
The havoc to me reminded me of when a war director likes to film a war scene too much and then tells you it's an anti-war film. And that's just that was always my reaction. The second act of the film is my favorite by far, and I was like, that's what turned me around more.
The prison sequence,
because I felt like now I saw more of a through line of not just the exploitation, but like a real. That's where the satire worked for me. It was a satire on the prison environment and how it is not about reform at all. It's not about connecting with these prisoners. It's about putting through the process and punishing them in a way that they will just do it again anyway. Mm-hmm. So I liked that satire, but the first act still bothers me. But I'm in the minority. I know. I want that for the record.
Anything to add there, Beau?
No, I mean,
Sorry
I can see what you mean. What's that again?
That's hilarious. In a twist of irony, I talked over you and said, sorry if we're talking over you.
Oh.
Our necklace.
No, I mean, I could see. I would argue, for me, I don't feel that the first part is gratuitous or too excessive, because I think to go with that theme of prisoner versus the system and the like, and obviously he wants to show Alex as I guess truthfully in a way where he is doing these awful things, and so what do we all see here? We see him, they're beating up on a homeless man, rampaging with not roller coaster, acted like a roller coaster, I guess, on this, on Durango 95, getting a gang fight, which inevitably saves a woman from rape, but then, right after that, then they go and do a home invasion. So I think it just shows pretty much, that was like a night of, being a fly in the wall, getting seeing what, the time of what a night with Alex is like. So I think it gives you enough. It doesn't, if it kept on doing that, then yeah, I would argue that'd be gratuitous, but, I think it shows enough for me to go, okay, yeah, I definitely get what this guy is about.
Yeah, it is, and in the way it portrays it to me, it seems always consistent with like a horror genre, and it always grounds itself. I mean, he does have consensual sex during this scene as well. He has a consensual threesome that happens during this, and he does, and
I enjoyed that scene because
it's one of the cool time lapses. That is a cool time lapse.
Kubrick was very amusing in that because of the super awesome time lapse. It is never titillating. You don't get to you get to watch a character we've decided is morally horrifying, and him having a positive good thing. We're not going to super reward him for that. We're going to make it fun for us in a way that's not I don't know. Do you see what I mean?
And I think
it's a different way of portraying him doing something good.
Well, he continually adds. It's almost a character study in a lot of regards because it does add. It continually adds nuance to Alex too. For instance, his love for Beethoven and the way he runs with the gang. These droogs, and when he's at the Korova Milk Bar for a nightcap, so the woman breaks out singing Ludwig van's Ode to Joy. And one of his group of his bandmates makes fun of her, and he punishes him by hitting him with his cane, which causes problems down the line. But it's an odd character trait, It's adding enough nuance to him, that I continually think the more the information that continually flows from Alex is always. Every tidbit is interesting, both the positive and negative effects. I mean, he is a force of nature that is negative ultimately, but I think that all really works. Do you have a favorite act in this film, Beau?
Not really. I really enjoy them all for their own reasons. But to add on that, Eric, one thing, yeah, I do enjoy that about the story that he does has that appreciation. I think early on, and I'd say I'd argue this is more fleshed out in the book because of the ending that it has, where Alex, he's growing up, in a way it's supposed to show, I think, in the story, where it's just so much easier to create chaos and just destroy everything. It's just so easy to do that. But it's so hard to actually create something, and then not to mention create something that people enjoy. And I think he's realizing that, and you see that in that scene specifically. You know what I mean?
It's definitely, and the person who is singing "Ode to Joy" too is an older woman. Too. Yeah, and there is definitely a undercurrent of how should I say this? Not elderly, but the previous generation's fear of youth, and how they frighten them. That's definitely a thing. You mentioned the book. Do you prefer the book more?
I don't know. I still enjoy the film. I mean, I love them both, but and there's just something to that. Again, the visual style. That I guess we'll get there, but.
So well, let's go there. So at the end of the film, Alex is tried to commit suicide, and he is in a full body cast, and he's being fed by the guy who basically got started him on the project to rehabilitate him.
It's the funniest scene.
Yeah, it's just an incredible scene.
Malcolm McDowell making that popping noise as he opens his mouth like a child.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Because he's feeding him, and basically now everyone's turned on Alex the other way. They feel bad for him because then the movie, you find out basically an argument the movie was making was a satire on rehabilitation and the prison system and how it really works, and also what is the end goal of rehabilitation? Because if rehabilitation means to fundamentally change who we are inside ourselves, is that is that morally correct or morally justifiable to do that to Alex, to submit him to that, to change who he really is without allowing, certainly to not allow him to discover it himself, but also it basically comments on rehabilitation as a theory versus the prison system too, and public order as a what's the word I'm looking for here? Basically, public order exists because we all agree it does. And we could sort of talk about that. And at the end of the film, we find out that Alex is having thoughts about sex and violence again. And, oh, my brothers, I was cured. So, like, basically, he's back to who he was, which then kind of leaves us ambiguous. Isn't this not better for him to be like this? To actually be who he is? Like,
well, I think there is... To me, I think the film is actually suggesting a middle ground. It doesn't present what the answer is, but to me, maybe my favorite scene in the movie is it's in the second act, and it's after all the brainwashing has been going on, and they are presenting the results to funders or whoever these people are, rich people in suits. And they have him up there, and to show that his brain will make him feel sick when confronted with thoughts of violence
and sex. They
have one guy just start beating him, and he won't defend himself with violence.
Licks his boot.
Because he's getting sick. And then, for the second example, a beautiful naked woman kind of walks up to him, and the idea of touching her, like, puts him to the ground in pain. These are both examples of positive uses of violence and sex. This is self-defense of, like, you don't have to, like, beat that guy up, but you should put your arms up, defend yourself, and this is a consensual approach. Like, there's nothing about this that is rape. She just walked up to you welcomely, but in a satire on the nature of censorship, all of violence is wrong, all of nudity is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And these men who are going to set the standards are also being very perverted in their seats. And are guilty of...
God, you just made a wonderful argument on why this movie's fantastic, Oxley.
I like that scene. I think when it's the satire and the prison thing, but like then... I don't want to... let's stay on the positive.
All right.
To me, I thought it was a really strong scene and focused really strongly on those themes.
Okay. No, absolutely. It's an interesting thing because, like, you'd say, to go with the dystopian thing, it's like, bad government creates bad people in a way, you know what I mean? And is how that bad government decides to try to fix these bad people and show it off. And it's like this endless loop then is what they're trying to create. Especially at the end there, one time I watched the film with, some, friends of ours, and, they actually thought that there was no hope for Alex. Like he's caught in the system no matter what, because now he's got that government job at the end that they're offering him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like he's playing ball with them. And of course, Alex doesn't mind that. He's fine with that,
Yeah, I mean, I would almost argue that that's kind of the point. These people grow up and they get jobs and they're still out there in a way. Like, in regards... I mean, it's shown very clearly earlier in the film, 2 of his droogs end up being police officers.
Yeah, exactly.
That was strong satire. That was really good.
Yeah. And they beat him. They beat him up. So, like, these people are part of the system. They become part of the system. On the ending, Beau, what do you take from the ending?
This is interesting for me. The first time, I watched it, or many times before I watched it, and of course, when he says, I was cured all right, and seeing him, having sex with the woman, everyone's like celebrating, obviously, represents, he's better now, or, better in quotes, he's back to himself again. He's not the Clockwork Orange that they made him to be. Oh, I said the title.
Wait, is that what that means?
Is that what that means? Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, I think it actually goes in depth to explain it in the book.
Yeah,
but
I can't remember. I was 18 when I read it.
Yeah, actually, the author, the guy that he beats up, the wife, the guy's who he rapes his wife. That author, he actually writes a book on Clockwork Orange.
Okay, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it's a little thing, or maybe not. Anyway, But yeah, so it's basically him resorting to his old self. But one of the last times I saw it, I think an interesting key thing to think about also in this is when he's going and he's getting that exam, kind of like a Rorschach test in a way, where he's presenting these images. And he's thinking about the first thing that comes to his mind.
Yeah, it's violent.
I think when they bring to the part when the guy's climbing it, doing the kind of a house invasion, maybe, where guy's climbing to the window of a naked woman, the drawing of the naked woman in the bed, and he immediately doesn't go to wanting to fuck her. He says, "Oh, no time for the in and out, love." I just came to read the meter.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really funny, but it's also interesting that his mind didn't immediately go to wanting to fuck her, trying to rape her or anything.
Yeah.
Which I think says something, possibly. Like, maybe he did actually learn something from his, events of the movie.
That's the most fascinatingly low standards.
Well, I mean,
look at him not raping her.
Well, but that, I mean,
but that's the guy he was.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's still.
I think anything not as subtle as that, I think would have been distracting. Okay. I mean, how else do you tell? You have to be subtle. You can't telegraph. I don't feel like raping you.
Yeah, no.
Ain't that great?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'm just commenting on just
shut
morals.
up. No. I get what you're saying though. That it is interesting that's. But when he is looking at the Rorschach paintings, he does say something like punching you in the face, right?
Yeah, so he's still got that going on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. So
like smash them like the eggs he's talking about.
And I smash them all up or something like that. Really.
I like in that scene that he's actually like not playing a long game about how to get out. He's having a good time. Like he wants to be more pictures. This is a fun game for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm starting to enjoy that.
Now again, it's been years. It has been years, and I know that Anthony Burgess famously didn't like the movie version because they're very similar, as I recall. The book and the very, very similar, except for the final chapter. How does it resolve in the book?
I'll get into that. Yeah, which I hear two different things on this. I hear that Burgess, I think he maybe wasn't happy with the ending, but I think he did enjoy the movie overall. I believe from what I read, but it is a common thing where people probably don't think
he comes off very arrogant. Burgess, I know he hated how I always get weirded out when people do this, when people get famous because of something and then hate that thing because it got them famous. You know what I mean? Like Van Morrison famously hates Brown Eyed Girl. Like it's that because they feel like they've written better and they've done better and they can't escape that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what he's written about. Yeah, he said that. Yeah, there's other books that he definitely enjoys more, but that will always be. He realizes that it's going to be the popular one, and I don't like it as much as my other ones. So in the end, it's chapter 21. There's 21 chapters in the original version. 20 chapters only in America, which is the version Kubrick read originally. The original 20th chapter ends with "I was cured, all right," and then the 21st chapter, which is meant to represent maturity. Burgess said, I believe I'm explaining that right. From child to adult. He thinks 21 is a good number for that. Mm-hmm. And basically, what happens is after the hospital, takes place months, maybe a year later or something, where Alex is back with another gang of droogs. He's the leader of them, but they're younger than him, and he has a job at a record store actually. And I think that's the job that the government gave him. And he ends up, they beat up some, another kind of homeless man, but Alex doesn't really take part in it. And he's always having this picture of like a baby that he found like in a magazine or something. He just keeps on looking at it. And he finds that the stuff around him isn't that interesting to him anymore, like this violence and stuff. And then they go to this bar again, and he runs into one of his old droogs, the one that's never really shown. Pete.
There's one that's not. Two of them. Dim's big, and the other one's big, and there's one that kind of just runs away the whole time. Yeah.
Pete, Georgie, and Dim. Yeah, I think it's. Yeah. But yeah, that one. He is married with a wife and dressed normally. And they're like, oh shit, hey, what's up? And so they kind of talk for a second, and then they say, hey, we'll catch up maybe sometime later. He goes, oh, okay. And then basically the ending is basically, Alex's internal, monologue saying that he just kind of realized that he's kind of done with this life of destruction, and perhaps this is just the human condition that we all kind of
grow out
have
of
this.
it.
Yeah, like at the beginning when we're younger, we're just so violent and crazy, and then we just kind of realize that we don't want to destroy, but to create. And so here, it looks like he's gonna maybe try to find, he's kind of a little, he's kind of almost a little like maybe not pissed off, kind of, I don't want to say sassy, but the way he describes it, it's like, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna like get married now, I guess, because that's what I'm feeling.
Well, that's what I'm feeling now too.
Yeah.
What? What do you think?
Your transition?
Would you like that, Austin? That ending better if that were in the film?
No, but I think it works better in a book.
Yeah.
But hearing you describe that, it reminds me a lot of the ending of The World's End. The Edgar Wright film with Simon Pegg. So
that one.
Yeah. So I bet that was a major influence. Like, it has a bit of a time jump, and he's back into the gang, and like, yeah, that's curious. I
could see that definitely because I really liked it. Well, I stopped watching it when the aliens showed up. But I guess spoilers on that. I don't know.
Well,
watch it again sometime. Actually, I was actually watching Hot Fuzz last night. Anyway, but to go into this real quick, Kubrick, he apparently did find out about it like during production. Like, because he always had the book around. People would keep on saying that there wasn't a script. He just had the book around all the time. And it is extremely faithful to the source material.
Yes, it is.
Every way, in very extreme ways.
Way more than The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, excuse me, too much booze. Or Morocco. Morocco plus.
Plus something else.
Yeah, right. So he was presented to that. He was presented with that 21st chapter, and I believe he read it, and he still didn't want to use it because he thought that took away from the story that he felt was in the book, which is what we mentioned before, where this is a battle between, governments trying to control the human mind, control humanity, and this is trying to be kind of like a triumph of humanity over the system, and the government.
So you're saying vote libertarian? What? I'm just kidding.
It's below the system.
Vote anarchy, actually. Yeah, we'll be talking about anarchy on our upcoming Slacker podcast. So anyway,
okay,
tune in for that. So this about wraps us up, I think.
It does. First of all, Beau, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Beau.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So next Wednesday, we will be wrapping up our Stanley Kubrick 5 with our typical kind of casual discussion as we look back at the films we covered and didn't cover. And we will announce our next 5. And until then, you can go to theartofmore.com, leave a comment for this episode or any episode. And also check out the other podcasts, including The Immortals, which this week we reviewed In the Heat of the Night, and the British sitcom Absolutely Fabulous. Nothing to do with each other. Nothing at all to do with each other. But also there is a fun podcast called Ad Absurdum, which is where the pop culture legal team take on a movie and talk about the legal implications. And February's movie is all about Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. It's a fun one. Where can we find you, Eric?
You check me out. Constant Diversion is my YouTube channel on there. We're still working on The Last of Us video. I promise it's coming. We're probably, I don't know, like 15 minutes into the cut. It's getting close, though. I mean, it's just a long video, so probably somewhere around 20 minutes, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Beau, you want to plug anything?
No, not really. I recommend everyone watch BoJack Horseman, because that's what I'm watching right now, and it's a fantastic show.
It is a great show. I love it. All right, so my name's Austin.
My name's Eric.
I'm Beau.
We'll catch you next time, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
As we walked along the flat block marina, I was calm on the outside, but thinking all the time. So now it was to be Georgie the General, saying what we should do and what not to do, and dim as his mindless, grinning bulldog. But suddenly I vidded that thinking was for the gloopy ones, and that the omni ones used like inspiration and what bogs ends. For now it was lovely music that came to my aid, There was a window open with a stereo on, and I viddied right at once what to do.